Hello, everyone. Happy Friday. Let's get started. Um, Last session, we talked about total query design. We talked about what is it, how it's different from the regular queries that we worked on. I'm going to review quickly the slides we talked about last session, and then we just work on different queries. So most of the time for this session will be on just practicing a few different queries and trying to build them. Last session, we talked about what is a total query. We said a total query, or like there are a set of queries that they try to summarize the results, and instead of like displaying individual records. That's different from regular query. The regular query, we try to look at like records of different tables, and we'll show the answers, or like provide results for using for each record of a table, and then maybe we can apply filters. But in this case, we're trying to summarize them. For summarizing them, we are going to have two things. We are going to have to have two things, or we are going to look for two things in every query. What is that? We're going to look for two particular components, group by and aggregate. In every query, if it's a total query, we should have a group. We should have a category that we're going to group the results based on. Okay, so we should look for a group or groups that we are going to categorize the results. And then for each group, we have an aggregate. We have an aggregate function for each group. We want to calculate that. We want to show that for each group. So in this case, like aggregate functions, we have aggregate functions like sum. We have aggregate function average, count. We use like counting the records in a table, minimum, maximum. So these two components always exist with the total query. That's how we can identify, looking at the query, reading the query, we can identify whether this query is a total query or not. That is one of the most important parts, because we have to make sure that we correctly identify if a query is a total query, and then go to query design and specify it as a total query. So we will look for category that we are trying to summarize the results and also an aggregate function. If we identify that, then we go in the query design and specify, click on the totals in the query design, so it adds that total row. That total row adds to the grid row, so we can use it for creating a total query. How do we know if we have if it's a total query? We are looking for two components. One, group. Second, the aggregation. So look at these queries. We can see a pattern. Like we have a group, and then we are trying to do some type of operation or calculation. Calculate total revenue per customer. Find average rental cost for each bike type. Count how many reservations per customer. So we have a group here. What is that group? We can see that we are trying to do that summary or aggregation for a specific group. Usually comes after these keywords, like each, per, a category that we use to aggregate the results. Then we can see it here. We see in the query that it tries to aggregate the results for each groups. So for each customer, we try to we need to calculate the total revenue. How do we do that? We have to look at all the records in the listing, in the what's the table in the reservations. Add up first, see if that customer has any reservations. If they have reservations, then we add the revenues together and then calculate the total revenue. So we look at multiple records, calculate the results, and then display it for the customer. These patterns exist with every total query. With the total query, we show either we have a group we are using a set of fields, set of columns as a group by or as a group, or we are using them as for aggregation. For aggregation, you don't use, like, for example, a customer name for aggregation. Aggregation is a function, mathematical operation, right? You have to use some type of numeric field. The same way for the group by, you don't use a numeric field for a group by. Why? Because numerics are infinite. We can't, like, if we are creating multiple groups, the reason is that we want to identify unique groups and then categorize the results for each group, but we want limited number of groups. If we have unlimited number of groups, basically we are just listing the results. There is no difference between that and also a listing like a regular query. The reason behind like total query is that we want to categorize the results or the records in the different tables into specific categories and then show a summary of the results. So we don't, if you are using a numeric field and specified as a group by, you want to think about it and say, is this correct? How many groups I'm creating? Like, let's say I have a field list price. Do I use it as a group by? I will never use it as a group by. Every record could have its own list price. There is no group. When you create group, you know that there are limited number of groups. And when you categorize them, then you will identify like relevant records for each group. But like a list price, it could be different for every listing. Then you would have the same number of like outcomes that you would have like if you wanted to show me the list of all the listings, right? So that should be taken into account. What is where in total query, either you're using a field for a group by, or you're using it for calculation, aggregation, or if anything else, you're going to use it to filter the results. If that's the case, when it happens, when you're using a column to filter the results, then you specify it in the totals row, you specify it as var. That way, it says this is only used to filter the results, and it also shouldn't be shown in the output table. So we want to remember to specify it as var. Like find average total cost for each bike for rentals in 2024. That means like calculate average rental cost for each bike. So the bike is grouped by bike. Show me like group by calculate average rental cost, and also where only show the results where the rental was in 2024. So I'm going to use year, and then I will specify in the criteria row as 2024. So it only shows the results for 2024. And that way in the total row, I have to specify it as var. We saw examples here. We saw that find total rental costs as spent by each customer. So for each customer, we have one row that specifies the customer first name, last name, ID, and the total revenue. Remember, sometimes like you could have more than one category for group by. For example, what if I say for each customer in each year, show me total revenue? Then you have two categories. You're going to group by customer as well as the year. So it could be more than one. And then that group could be presented by multiple columns. Like if I tell you group by each customer in the output table for customer, show customer first name and last name. Both of these will be used for group by. So one category could be presented in the output table with multiple columns. I want to keep that into account. For like here, all these three are used as group by. We'll see that like in the total row, you have to specify every column you add to the query grid. You have to specify either group by or the aggregation, like the type of aggregation, or var. You have to specify. So that's why you should determine what am I using this field for. We worked on this query last session, where we created a query that displays average of sales prices for each property in each town. That's where we are going to start today. So let's work on this one. Create a query that displays sum of list price for properties in each county where sales prices is greater than 0. Sort the results by county names in ascending order. In the output table, show county and sum of list prices. Okay, I'm going to create a new, so go to Access, create a new query. First, what, like, should I go and create a total query? Don't think that just because we're working on total query, we should just create total query. Think about the query and see, is this a total query or not? Do I have these two main components? I have a category and I have an aggregation for each category. Do I have it? If I have it, what is the category? What is the aggregation? I know the aggregation usually is like I'm either counting the records, or I'm like taking average, total, sum, or like minimum, maximum. So what is it? What is in this case? What is the category? Do we have, if it's a total query, what is the category? What is the aggregation? Exactly. So for each county, you have to show sum of list prices, right? We have to aggregate, like look at the listing table. We have for each listing, we have the list price. Now what we want to do, we want to aggregate them for each county. So which table do we need? We only need the listing table. We are going to add, again, I want to review, like remind you before like this, we've talked about this. You only add the table to the query design that you've used them for some reason. Either you've added them, you've added a field, or you've used a field from that table, or you're using two tables, but they're not connected. They are connected through a table. You have to add that. That's one of the mistakes I saw in the homework when I was grading them today. And I will post like a, like add a posting, explain that, which was like, always remember the link matters, because that's how we can identify like the records that are linked. I want to talk about it later. But for now, just remember, we only add the tables that we are going to use and are relevant for that query. In this case, we only use the listening table, so I've added the listening table. What do I want to do is for each county, so I'm going to create a total query. I didn't know that, so I'm going to add the total row. Here, for each county, so I have the county. I will double click to add the county here. It is automatically, the default is group by. It doesn't mean that it knows that we are going to use county as a group by. It's just like the default is group by. So don't get confused about it. You might have to change it. Even if I add anything else, again, it adds group by. So it doesn't mean anything. Here, I know that county, I will use it for group by. And then for each county, list of prices. I already have a field. I have a field that indicates the list price. So I don't have to worry about, like, in this case, we are not going to create any field. We already have a field that like will show for each listing the list price. So I will add it here. You see, even if I added the listing, it said group by. It indicated group by just because it's a default. It doesn't mean that we are going to use it as a group by. Think about this. If I use group by listing for each listing unique, for each unique listing price, it's going to create one group. How many unique listing price do we have? Probably could be infinite. It could be like changed by $1. That means like we could have infinite number of groups. We don't want to do that. We always want to have finite numbers, a limited number of groups, unique groups that can create meaningful results. That's why like the numerics are not good for like using for a group. So what do I want to do? Like sum of list prices. Okay, sum of list prices. Then in each county where the sales price was greater than 0, so I will add that into the criteria row. If you have to apply a filter for any of the fields you're using for group by or like aggregation, similarly again you add them in the criteria row or in the O row depending on what is the filter. In this case, in the criteria for list price greater than 0. Okay. So now what do we see? For each county, we see sum of sales prices. We have we're looking for unique categories. When we're using total queries, we're trying to find unique categories so that we can use for summarizing the results. Otherwise, we can list them. We can show the results for different category, like different records, or like we can say, okay, show me all the listings for each customer. Show me the listings for each place, but when we use a total query, we are trying to summarize them for unique categories. Now that we've created the query, we are going to take a few more steps to complete this query. First, it's a listing price, so we'll create a monetary field. So I have to change the format to currency. So click right on the field, click on properties so you can change the format to currency. Change the format to currency. Click on properties, click on format, change the format to currency. If you have a field, you're creating a field, or you're doing the total query and the field is like a monetary, you change the format to currency. Click right and click on properties and then go and change the format to currency. Okay, so we have the sum of the list prices. It says sort them. Sort the results by county name in the ascending order. So I will change the sort based on ascending for the county. Change the format, sort to current ascending or county. One more thing, with total queries, when you create an aggregate field, like here, sum of prices, that's the one that is we use for aggregation. This is the aggregation, this sum. It automatically adds some name to it. Usually we want to specify the name ourselves. How do we do that? Click right on the field itself again. Click right and then click on build or zoom, either way. The same way that you would assign a name to a field we worked on when we were creating a calculated field. How do we do that? Like type the name and then add a colon after that. So I'm going to go back just before this, add and type the name and add a colon, or just add a colon and then before that add a name. This is total no space, total list price. Let me I'm going to show you since this is small. So I assigned a name, and then a colon, and then after that list price. That could be correct. If you didn't do that, okay, either way, you have to you can assign a name, add a colon, and then after that the name of the field. If you want, you can start from the other way. Basically, type the name of the field. So let's say I don't have the name, I don't have the field. Type the name of the field, add colon, and then go from the table from here the same way. You would find the listing, and what is the field? It is list price. So double click to add the list price. Again, remember, if you see that EXPR, remove it. So this way also it works too. Could go and find the field and add a say total price colon and then the field that I will use. This time it will show based on exactly what I've assigned to that field as a field name. Any question? I will save this as query 1. Next query. In this query, we want to create a query that shows the price difference for each listing when the data of the listing, was after this date. In the output table, show the listing ID, county, and the price difference. Is this a total query or a regular query? Yeah. Regular query. Is this a regular query or total? Yes. If it's a total query, we have to see two things: a group, and then for each group, an aggregation. That aggregation, like it's a count. You're taking an average of something. You're finding a minimum, maximum. Do you see that here? Right? We don't see it. We are just trying to list the results for a particular, like like each listing when the date of the listing is after this date. So we just want to show the price difference. So it's like a regular query. So it's not a total query. That is correct. So let's create that. Create a query. Which table we are going to use? Again, we only need the listing table here, which includes all these fields that we are going to use. Date of the listing, price difference, we have the list price, we have the sales price. In the output table, we want to show listing ID, county, and price difference. So listing ID, county, and then price difference. Do we have the price difference? We have to create a new field to calculate the price difference. We have to create a new field to calculate the price difference. Price difference is the sales price or list price minus sales price. So click right here, click right to go to build to create a new field. Click right, go to build. What is the first thing we assign? It's the name of the field. For any new field we create, you have to assign a new field, a new name. So this one is price diff. I will just say price diff, and then colon. If you create a new field and you don't assign a new, you don't assign the name for it, it automatically adds EXPR123, and that is not correct, because when you show it in the output table, that name for that field is meaningless. That is why, like, that's one of the things that I will pay attention to, like in the homework, in the midterm exam. You have to assign a correct and meaningful name to every field that you create, and you want to check it to make sure you correctly assign a name. Price diff. Now let's go here, click on this process, find the like that those fields that we are going to use in that calculation. So from the listing table, I have the list price. Double click on list price minus sales price. List price minus sales price. Okay, I took a screenshot, why it's not showing up here. Okay, so this is the formula. Do you, are we done here? Should we save it? Is there anything we need to do before saving it? Yes.
Did you get rid of the expression?
Exactly. Don't forget that, like this part, this EXPR from your formula should be deleted. If you see that you've added it, you've deleted it, and like you want to make sure that you delete that part. Thank you. Delete that part and then save the form, like save this formula, expand it so we can see the formula. It is going to be price difference. It's a monetary value. So we want to like change the format as well to currency. Click right, go to properties to change the format to currency. Go to property sheet, and from here, change the format to currency. Let me see if is the currency. Okay, so change the format to currency. And we only want to show price difference greater than 0, so I will add in the criteria row price difference greater than 0. So I added this in the criteria row, price difference greater than 0. Let me see. The listings that were listed after this date. We still need to add one more column here. We have the date listed date. Add the date listed, and then in the criteria row, I want to see after 7/1/2016. 7, right? 7/1/2016. Date listed 7/1/2016. In the output table, we want to show listing ID, county, and price difference. What does it tell us? We have to hide the date listed. We need to hide date listed because it wasn't asked to be shown in the output table. You only want to show listing ID, county, and price difference. Good. Did we have any sort? Let me just double check this. We don't have sort, but we can like sort the results for price difference just in case, so we can see a sorted result. Okay, so we see for each listing, we see the county, we see the price difference, and we don't see that like time that we use for filtering the results, for only the listings date like listed after that date. Okay, so this was our query. I'm gonna save the query. Close. Next query. Create a query that shows average price difference for listings in each county when the date of listing was after 7/1/2016. In the output table, show county and average price difference. Kind of similar to the previous query, right? But it's also different. Is this a total query or a regular query? Total query. We have a group and we have an aggregation. What is the group? This time, in the previous query, we were just listing the county for and also like the price difference. Now here, we are aggregating them, aggregating the same results. This time, we are saying for each county, show the average sales price, average price difference, average price difference. So we have an aggregation and we have a list, like a group. And we also have the same way date listing was after 2016. This is only, is this an aggregation? No. Is this a group by? We're using for grouping the results? No. So this we know that we are going to use it as a verify where we filter the results. So I'm going to create the same query, but a little bit different. Listing, add county here, add county here. And then again, create that formula, go to build to create that formula, which was a price diff. Price diff, add tables, listings, list price minus sales price. Again, remember to remove this part from the formula. So first I need to create it and then think about, okay, this is a total query. Create the field because we don't have the price difference. So price difference. So we created a price difference column or field. Price difference and county. We can also specify the field, which is for date. When date of the listing was after 7/1. You see, I haven't even like applied the totals. We don't have to do it right away. We can add them and then add the total and like specify which one is a group by, which one is like a aggregation and anything else. So here I will use the listing date, date listed. Again, I will specify in the criteria row 7/1/2016. Okay. So far, pretty much this very similar. This will recreate for each listing, will create the formula, right? For each listing will show us the price difference. I will add the price difference greater than 0. If I run this, it will show me for each listing the county, price difference, and date it was listed. Now, we want to apply that. For each group, show me average listing. So that means I need to apply totals here. And you see, once you add the total, it automatically adds it and like adds the default group by. Now it's time to specify which one is a group by, which one is which. So here we are using county as a way to group the results. So it's a group by. So that's correct. Price difference. This is the one that we are going to like take the average for each group, right? That's the aggregation. So price, like this one is the aggregation, average price difference. Average price difference. Now, how about the last one, date listed? Is it group by? No. Is it the aggregation? No. So this is, we are using it to filter the results. So I'm going to specify as where. Group by county. Average price difference where listed date or date listed was after like 7/1/2016. And once I specify as where, I can see that it automatically unchecks this part to not show it in the output table. You see, now we only have to like aggregate them, like instead of multiple records, we only have 2 records because we categorize all these records into like based on the county. So we only have two unique counties left. And like we have two records for each county, average price difference. Then we can change the format to currency here as well. So click right, go to properties and change the format to currency. We can sort the results. Do we have a sort, like sort the results? We don't have that, so I'm just gonna sort the results again based on price difference. Sort the results based on price difference, and I have county and price difference. Let me save this query because we're completed this query again. One thing we can apply here is like here, the name of the field is price difference. But we know that after this calculation, it's the average price difference. It's not price difference, right? It's no longer, this column is not price difference. It is incorrect. It is average price difference. So what I need to do, I need to go back to the formula and update this name to like something else. For example, average price difference. Yes, that formula is not creating average price difference, but the result, that's the name of the result. So I want to like show the results with the correct name. So I changed that price difference to average price difference. So when I run this, I see the average price difference. It's not, it correctly names that result. This is the average price difference for each county. Okay, average price difference. So what I did, I changed the name of the field so it correctly indicates what that field, like what that column is in the output table. Any question? We're good? Yes. Okay. Yes. Create a query that shows the total number of listings for each agent in the year entered by the user. Prompt the user to enter the year, use listing date to extract the year, sort the results so the agent with the highest number of listings comes first. First, again, is this a total listing or a regular? Is this a total query or a regular query? If it's a total query, what is the group and what is the aggregation? Exactly, right? So total number of listings. We want to count. How do we know total number of, if we don't use sum, right? It's not sum. We are count, like we want to count them. So count listing for each agent. Where, what was the year? This time the year, we don't have an exact date. We want to like get it from the user. So we are going to use parameter query. For this case, listing. And for the agent, I should have specified here. Did I specify? I should have specified like that show first name and last name and what should be shown in the output table. assume that we're going to show first name and last name for the agent. So first name and last name for the agent. First name and last name for the agent. Total number of listings. I'm going to add total here. So group by first name, last name. Anytime you're dealing with counting records of a table, what should I use here as a field? I know already. I'm going to add, what is the aggregation? The aggregation is going to be count, because I'm going to count the records. Total number of listings. Total number of listings, I need to look at the listing table and count the records in the listing table linked to each agent. So what field should I use here? Anytime you're counting the records of a table, the field that you're going to use commonly is the primary key of that table. Primary key of that table. In this case, we're counting the records in the listing table. What is the primary key of the listing table? Listing ID. So I will use that one there. Listing ID. Let me, now it should probably, I'm going to go back here. Listing ID, and then change that to count. Okay. So anytime you're counting the records of a table, you want to like count the records of one table, you use the primary key. Why we are using primary key? You can use the other fields. I can add, instead of listing ID, if I add date sold, again, it's counting them. It doesn't matter what. But why we do use like primary key of the table? It is common. It is common that we like use the listing ID because it's not relevant to any field. Second, primary key always is going to be it is going to have a value. It cannot be null. Any other field, it could, but we are not sure if, like, we have to check whether they're null or not null. So it could, like, the result could be different. And then listing ID is uniquely assigned to every record of a table. So it kind of like makes it easier. I know that when I'm counting them, like this is unique for every record in a table. So again, when you have a query that asks you to like show me total number of records linked to something, or like show me count the number of like, let's say, reservations for a customer, count the number of orders for a customer, you use the table's primary key, order ID, reservation ID in the count column. So this is the aggregation. Next, only like they show the results in the year entered by the user. So when you let the user enter the year and then filter the results. But do we have a field called year? We don't have it, so we have to create it. It already said how to create. Use the date, list date, to extract year. So I'm gonna create a new field, click right, click on build. I'm gonna name it list year, and then colon, list year and colon. You can use the format function we talked about last, like a few sessions ago, or year function. Format function, I can use format function, format, the first, and then format parentheses. The first one is selecting the table, like field. So in this case, from the listing table, date listed. Double click to add date listed. Format, parentheses, date listed, comma, and then inside double quotation, for Y's, so indicate that we are looking for year. 1, 2, 3, 4. I think I need, okay. Inside double quotation and close the parentheses. I think I have it. So either you use this like year, date listed, or format, and then field, and then Y. So list year. This will give me the list year. I used one of the fields to extract the years. I used the list year. And then in this case, it should be a group by, what should I specify? Is it a group by, am I using it to group the results? Am I using to only filter results or aggregation? In this case, I only filter the results for that particular year. What is particular year? First, let's try to do that. Like in the criteria row, because it says let the user enter, prompt the user to enter the year, it's a parameter query. For a parameter query in the criteria row, I will add inside the brackets the text, like enter list, enter year. It's like, it doesn't matter, enter year, and then close the parent and like bracket. Inside the bracket, the text, whatever you type, just type the text inside the bracket. No need for double quotation. This is the exact text that will be showed to the user. Not anything after that, not anything before that, not using like or anything else. Just inside the bracket, enter year. Now let's change this to where. You're using that column to only filter the results. Count for each agent, count the number of listings for a year. What is that year? This will be typed. You see, enter year, that's the exact text that I'm seeing here. Enter year. So I can type, let's say 2016. If I type 2016, it exactly shows me first name and last name of the agent and total listings that they had for in that year. We can like make this nicer. Sort the results based on count. So I'm going to sort them based on the count, and also change the name of the field, the listing ID. So again, going back to listing ID, I can go to build, and then before that, add column and say total listing. Total listing. Where does it go? Okay, so this one is that. So this is what we created here. Group by first name, last name of the agent, total listing, column, this ID, count. This is the aggregation where listing year is equal to, let the user enter. Inside the bracket, type the text you want to show to the user, and then we are creating. Here, we create the formula in the fields row. Remember, always, formula we are creating a new field, so it should be in the fields row. It shouldn't be in the criteria row. In the criteria, you exactly indicate what is the value, what if you're using it for filtering. In this case, we only have this parameter, so we still will place that thing that the user entered there. And that is a 2016. Any question? Great. We have 5 minutes. You have 5 minutes to work on this query. To work on that query. And I will show you the code for attendance. Work on this because we only have 5 minutes. Please work on it, but I will ask you to submit it next session once we come to the class. I will collect it with the next one because there are 2 of them to submit, so I will collect them at the same time. But we have 5 minutes. Try to work on this for in that 5 minutes. Okay. And in the meantime, if you have questions, let me know.